There appears to be more going on here, based on the tone of the online discussion. Erin Kane, Caitlin Clark's agent, was engaged in a completely unrelated activity while everyone else was preoccupied with the possibility that she would leave Indiana. She was dealing with more than just an irate rookie. She was constructing a case that would permanently alter the WNBA's rules. The information you are about to hear is not from official declarations or news conferences. This involves piecing together digital breadcrumbs and sorting through speculative noise to identify the signals that indicate something far more significant than a single player's contract status. My name is Jackson Riley, and I have been observing the WNBA culture's meta-narratives. Real change is fueled by the stories behind the stories. Furthermore, what I've learned about Kane's approach in recent months is not only amazing, but revolutionary. She used every bit of coaching controversy, every mishandled injury, and every instance of Clark's obvious annoyance as leverage for collective bargaining talks that might change the way this league treats all future stars. Allow me to introduce you to the scene. By choosing not to participate in their collective bargaining agreement, the WNBA Players Association initiated talks that will shape the league's future through 2030 and beyond. The deadline of October 31st, 2025, applies to more than just pay raises. It concerns significant structural adjustments to the way in which players are empowered, developed, and safeguarded within organizations. However, this is what was overlooked by the media. Erin Kane didn't hold off on starting those talks. As soon as Caitlin Clark set foot on an Indiana Fever practice court, she began constructing her case. Every coaching choice, every injury, and every statement Clark made in public regarding the team's shortcomings. Kane was recording everything as proof of structural flaws that the new CBA needed to fix. Consider the timetable. Early in June, Clark sustains her first groin injury. Rather than remaining silent, Kane lets information surface regarding how the coaching staff originally minimized the seriousness. Later in the season, there is the quad injury. Once more, concerns are raised regarding whether the right procedures were followed and whether the training personnel was sufficiently safeguarding their most important resource. Although official sources won't tell you this, a different picture would show up if you followed the digital breadcrumbs. Kane was worried about more than simply Clark's well-being. She was establishing a record of organizational carelessness that would be useful as leverage in CBA talks over player advocate rights, injury prevention procedures, and medical care standards. Even more ammunition came from the coaching scandal involving Stephanie White. Clark wasn't only frustrated when he said in public, "We need to do a better job getting the ball in transition." It demonstrated how coaching systems that placed a higher priority on managing talent development were stifling a player. Kane might use this as evidence that the CBA's current terminology regarding player input and tactical choices was inadequate. However, Kane's handling of the media narrative surrounding these concerns was a masterstroke. She allowed unfavorable coverage to accumulate rather than attempting to stifle it. Every report on Clark's injuries, every study casting doubt on White's coaching choices, and every social media debate concerning whether Indiana was mishandling their star player all contributed to a larger argument for the WNBA's need for more robust player protection measures. After sorting through the clutter, I've come to the conclusion that Kane is utilizing Clark's predicament as a test case for changes to league-wide rules. She isn't simply speaking for one player. She is setting new guidelines for how agents should represent their customers within the established hierarchies of power. Kane was exhibiting something completely different in the Barclays Center tunnel shot, which everyone took to be tampering or recruitment. She was demonstrating that her client had choices because other organizations valued Clark more than Indiana did. More significantly, though, she was producing visible proof of the professional conduct and respect that ought to be expected throughout the league. Let's now discuss what this truly accomplished. Unprecedented wording about injury management procedures is part of the upcoming CBA negotiations. Proposed guidelines include player rights with relation to treatment choices, required second opinions for serious injuries, and requirements for medical personnel certification. These policies weren't created at random. They are straightforward fixes for known problems that surfaced during Clark's debut campaign. Another area where Kane's documentation campaign was successful was in getting player input on coaching choices. The latest CBA talks include clauses pertaining to tactical consulting requirements, player feedback channels, and limitations on coaching systems that essentially go against a player's demonstrated skill set. Once more, these are not abstract ideas. They're fixes for certain issues that Kane systematically brought to light via Clark's experience. The tale doesn't stop there, though. Kane's strategy established a model that other agents are currently using. The strategic use of media coverage, the documentation of organizational shortcomings, and the framing of player concerns as systematic league flaws. It's starting to set the new benchmark for player representation at the highest level. Alright, let's move on to the realm of rumors. Although there isn't any official confirmation, the online discussion is too loud to ignore. According to people familiar with the talks, members of the CBA committee were compelled to study Clark material. Several policy ideas are said to have been informed by her methodical analysis of how the league's current systems failed to safeguard and promote its most marketable talent. Kane's strategy wasn't only brilliant at spotting issues. It was in presenting such issues as chances for league expansion. There were more than simply health problems with Clark's injuries. They posed a threat to the WNBA's most important promotional tool. Personality conflicts weren't the only aspect of the coaching drama. They served as illustrations of how antiquated procedures could inhibit the kind of thrilling theater that attracts audiences and generates income. Kane broke away from conventional sports representation at this point. She wasn't merely looking out for her clients' interests. She was presenting those goals as being consistent with the league's long-term prosperity. She wasn't criticizing Indiana when she detailed its shortcomings. She was illustrating the advantages of higher standards for all. Medical care standards, player development guidelines, input methods for tactical decisions, and other provisions that would not have been possible without Kane's labor were all part of the CBA discussions that ended earlier this year. These policy talks weren't abstract. They were firm reactions to the league's biggest stars' debut season, handling blunders that were chronicled. What, therefore, is hypothesis and what is fact? Let's dissect it. In actuality, Erin Kane meticulously recorded each and every facet of Clark's care at the Indiana Fever organization. In actuality, the policy areas that garnered previously unheard of attention during the CBA discussions largely correspond with these stated difficulties. Whether this synchronization was deliberate or accidental is up for debate. What makes the tale even more important, though, is this. Across the league, the repercussions are already apparent. Kane's documentation strategy is being adopted by other agents. Organizations are advising young athletes to monitor their therapy more closely. Beyond Clark's particular circumstance, the balance of power between individual players and team management has changed in significant ways. Kane's impact on the new CBA appears to go beyond the policies that were included in the final deal, based on the tone of the internet discussion. Her methodical, recorded, and public advocacy technique has emerged as a novel framework for player representation in professional sports. She helped more than one person with their issues. She altered the league's approach to identifying and resolving issues. It is evident from league official signals that a new age of player advocacy is represented by the Kane model. Organizations can no longer presume that private or isolated player issues will stay that way. Any systematic failure in player care is now expected to be reported, documented, and utilized as leverage for more extensive policy changes. This leads us to the issue that will inevitably arise. What comes next? Kane has set a new benchmark for player representation that extends much beyond conventional contract talks. She has demonstrated how league-wide policy changes can be influenced by the experiences of individual players. The coaching drama that initially appeared to be normal rookie adjustment problems served as the impetus for the WNBA's systemic reforms to player-coach interactions. Clark wasn't merely frustrated when he made remarks in public regarding tactical limits. They served as proof in a fight for player input rights, which are currently outlined in league regulations. Realizing that the CBA bargaining window presented a chance to turn personal complaints into group advantages was Kane's brilliant move. She was more than just Clark's supporter. She pushed for a new structure that would safeguard other players in the future who might encounter comparable circumstances. Although official sources won't tell you this, A different picture becomes apparent if you follow the digital breadcrumbs. Kane's account of Clark's debut season served as a model for locating and resolving structural problems around the league.